Welcome to the beautiful game of life. Your current mission objective: to learn 3 simple yet incredibly powerful mantras that will guide you to reaching your absolute highest potential, as well as to remind you about life's most important lessons, the key lessons and takeaways that you want to have on your mind and on your brain 24/7, so that you are always walking through life with a success mindset, with happiness, and with true and real guidance, so that you can always prioritize the things that you want to think about, right? Instead of having life take you on this wild roller coaster up and down every 5 seconds, instead of your thoughts running away from you left, right, and all around, taking you on this wild goose chase. With these powerful mantras, you will be able to take back control of your thoughts so that you program your mind to think for success, to think for well-being, and to think for happiness. And this is what truly matters in life. Because at the end of the day, my friend, we all know that this one precious life ends for every single one of us. Whether we come back or not, we don't know. And so it's important for us to live every single day to the absolute fullest, and mantras will give you the power to do so. So now you may be wondering, what's the point of mantras? Why do I even bother learning these very short yet very powerful and compact little lines to repeat to myself on a daily basis? For those of you who don't know, a mantra is a simple yet concise word or phrase that is used by an individual to repeat a very important lesson over and over again. This affirmation is usually something that the person wants to instill in their lives and at the core of their being. This short and concise word or phrase usually entails a desired belief or a desired kind of outcome that the person repeating it wants to achieve. So for many people out there who want to generate a lot of income, a lot of wealth, they might repeat the mantra, I am wealthy, I am wealthy. I'm a rich dude. It can be whatever you want, right? I am in abundance. Abundance comes to me naturally, right? You hear all the cringy and cliche ones that you hear all over the internet, right? And I promise you that today, they're not going to be cringy and they will actually be beneficial to your life. But this is the whole idea and mindset behind having an affirmation or a mantra. You may be wondering, what's the point? Like, why even bother repeating these things to myself? I mean, won't I just sound like a crazy person, walking around, I am wealthy, I am abundant, I am a sex god. Wouldn't it be weird just walking around thinking all these things to yourself? Especially if you say them out loud. Geez, you might get labeled as the town crazy. But you might be wondering, what's the point in repeating these things? One powerful reason, as I mentioned before, is the process of reprogramming beliefs, right? We all sit with these deep-seated core beliefs that we learned years ago as children. Maybe in our young lives, we came across people that told us things that may not have been true, but were very limiting to our sense of self. Things like, you are not worthy of love, you are not good enough, you are too noisy, you need to keep quiet. We all have these inner core beliefs that tend to run the course of our lives. They tend to lead us to acting and behaving in certain ways that may not be beneficial. And so sometimes repeating a mantra not only allows you to keep the truth in the front of your mind, for example, I am good enough, I am worthy, right? But it tends to kind of unseat that old belief. When repeated over and over again, the mantra or affirmation tends to kind of question and challenge that old set of programming as though it was a computer program. And by reprogramming the computer with a more positive, more empowering belief, that tends to help the belief shape into something totally different and hopefully a lot more positive and empowering. For me, I often come across important lessons or important and incredibly life-changing insights, whether that's from movies, from YouTube videos, from books that I read. And I often look at these lessons and insights and think, wow, if only I could implement this on a daily basis over and over again, my life would be totally transformed. I'm sure we've all had that moment looking at a piece of information thinking, wow, this has the power to totally alter the course of my life. But what happens, especially if you're a bully like me with a fading memory, you tend to forget the important lessons that you learn. But another simple reason is that I'm human, and so are you. And we do tend to often forget important lessons that would serve us immeasurably, right? We've all attended funerals in our lives. It's a sad reality of life. And for me, every time I attend a funeral, I have this realization that, wow, life is short. I'm going to die, and it's so important for me to enjoy the moments that I get, to love the people around me, to be appreciative of life as a whole. This works for about 2 to 3 days after the funeral because it's heavy on my heart. And then what happens after 3 days? I'm back to being my old, full of nonsense, easily irritated self, right? I get annoyed with people. I want to shake people up. And I'm like, why can't this person just get out of my way in traffic? Totally forgetting this profound realization that I just had, that life is short and I probably shouldn't be getting angry at the dude in traffic that may be having a bad day as well. And lastly, mantras are used very commonly in types of meditation, and in particular, a type of meditation known as transcendental meditation, where one repeats a mantra over and over again. And this is especially useful for people that start with meditation and they battle with those racing, crazy, ridiculous thoughts, and it just seems impossible to follow something like the breath or follow the sounds. And so a simple mantra repeated, whether that's mantra has meaning or whether it's just a random string of words, that can be profoundly useful to help people. And it helped me like tremendously in calming my racing thoughts so that I can be centered and present, which is ultimately, according to the Stoics and the Buddhists and the monks and all of the amazing, enlightened people, this is the key to enlightenment, to be present. And to do that, mantras can be profoundly helpful. I know this has nothing to do with mantras, but ain't he cute, bro? Ain't he cute? What's up, boy? I'm a cat. What mantras do you use?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Love you. All right, I gotta get back to the video. So in summary, mantras help us stay grounded in the only moments that ever matters, which is the present moment. And they also allow us to keep on remembering key and important lessons that we would otherwise forget going about our daily, crazy, unconscious lives. So they are powerful. The question becomes now, I can't think about 1,000 mantras every day. I can't repeat a whole Bible of most powerful mantras. So how do I shorten this down? How do I sum this up to really remember key things, right? The most effective mantras that I could possibly use in my life so that I can see effective change and see real happiness in my daily life. And luckily for you today, I've taken a lot of time and a lot of research and a lot of thought into giving you these 3 mantras that I have found profoundly useful and effective in helping me stay grounded and in helping me remember what truly matters in life. I would like to mention, however, that you can pick whatever mantras you like. These are my top 3 that I find cover pretty much all the bases in my life as far as what I want to remember. But again, feel free to take something out that doesn't work for you and add in a lesson that you might currently need, because we're all unique and special individuals and we all have our own kind of lessons to be learning in this one life that we get. So here are my mantras. 1 with life, 1 with death, 1 with now. So let's start with the first mantra, which is 1 with life. You could honestly take this one in any direction you want. This mantra personally reminds me of the importance of surrender. Taking action in a surrendered state instead of a forceful state. Being one with life, hence going back to the mantra. Living with life, going with the flow of life instead of always fighting the current, instead of always bashing against fate. For me personally, I have found this lesson to be mind-blowing, to say the least. As many of you may be able to relate, we've lived lives of constant battle, constant fight, constant fixing, constant wanting things to be the way that they aren't. And for a lot of people, this brings a lot of suffering. It brings a lot of pain. It brings a lot of confusion. And no matter how many fleeting glimpses of happiness we may experience, whether that's a success, whether that's eating a nice meal, whether that's falling in love, we all have these little brief moments of joy, but as many of you can relate to, these moments are very short-lived. And whether we realize it or not, once we've enjoyed this little minute moments of happiness, we're often on to the next thing. We're on to the next challenge and on to fighting the next dragon and on to fighting the current, swimming upstream, because that's what our current hustle culture tells us to do. I'd like to make it known that I'm not advocating against hard work, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't work to achieve goals. What I'm saying is that you may easily forget the simple fact that if you do not enjoy your life right now, if you do not surrender to the moment and accept what is going on in your life, despite wanting to be somewhere else, despite having these goals and ambitions and dreams, you got to remember that if you are not happy right now, you could die in 5 minutes time. I know that sounds crazy and in your face, but this may be your last day on earth. And you could spend the majority of your life, if you aren't careful, fighting what is, being resistant to the now, not being happy with where you are in your current life. I've realized the paradoxical truth that only once you surrender to your situation, you surrender to life as it is, and you become, as I said, one with the world, one with the flow of life. It's only then that things start to fall into place and that you can actually find real happiness in this present moment and at the same time still go for the goals, still achieve the things that you want to achieve. The only difference is that now you do these things out of love, out of a state of joy and presence and inspiration, instead of a state of hustle and fight and bleed and sweat and toil. The self-improvement space is full of it. But you may come to realize, like I have, that surrender really is the way. And that once you become one with life and you go with the flow and you just take everything on the chin as it comes, the good and the bad, and you allow yourself to accept it all. The pain, the suffering, the beauty, the misery, the joy, the splendor, everything, absolutely everything. And you accept the now and you go with life instead of fight against it. Life tends to become a lot more generous, a lot more compromising, and a much better teammate in general. So one with life reminds me on a daily basis, when things go wrong and when things aren't going my way and when it feels like life is stress, sometimes it's not a bad idea to step back, allow things to be, see where I can work with life instead of against it, and enjoy my time doing so in love and inspiration instead of in sweat, tears, and toil. Now, the second mantra takes us to the opposite end of the spectrum, but again, equally profound, is the mantra, one with death. Does this mean I'm ready to die at any moment? Possibly, right? And I don't mean that in a nihilistic way, even though my name's Niall. Dad joke of the day, just in case you missed it. I don't mean this to be depressing, but when I think of the mantra, one with death, I often think of the very powerful and stoic phrase, which is memento mori, roughly translated into, remember, someday you will die. It's an inevitable fact of life, but if we can take that on the chin, as I mentioned before, these affirmations work together. So we go back to one with surrender. If you surrender to the fact that one day you're going to die, a lot of amazing things tend to happen. One of those things being that you start appreciating your life because you realize that in 50 years from now, maybe 80 if you're lucky, depending on your age watching this video, you are going to be nothing but rubble and dust. You may go to heaven if that's what you believe in. You may go to hell. You may go into oblivion. Nobody, no matter what they say, knows for certain. The only thing I know for certain is that this may be the one shot you get. This one life may be your one shot at living fully and enjoying the life that is happening around you. It is the one chance that you have to go for what you truly want out of life, to tell the people that you love them, to appreciate new and exciting moments, to appreciate the simplicity and beauty in the presence and stillness of life. It's your one chance to live, and it's going to be over. And so when I realized memento mori, one day I will die, or one with death, I realized that in every moment, I need to be okay with the fact that death is coming. May come today, may come next week, may come in 50 years from now. I don't know. I have no idea when it's coming for me. What I do know is that by reminding myself of death pretty consistently, as hard as it can be to do, because unfortunately, death brings up the real, right? It makes you confront the things you may be doing wrong in your life. It shows you where the weak areas or the weak spots are in your life. It reveals to you what you might be lacking in. But that's the beauty of this mantra, is that it brings to focus what actually matters, not the bullshit, not the traffic jam you got into yesterday, not the argument you had with your coworker about the Google Docs and spreadsheets, not any of the crap that clutters our minds so often, that makes us unconscious in everyday life, makes us forget that, wow, this is a miracle that I'm alive today. So repeating this to myself and you repeating this to yourself will constantly remind you that in 100 years from now, you will be gone and forgotten, whether you were famous, whether you were an emperor, a president, whether you were the garbage man, whether you were a teacher, a lawyer, whatever, right? Doesn't matter what you were. Chances are good that 100 years from now, not many people are ever going to remember you. And you can decide today whether that's a sad, nihilistic thing to consider, or whether that is the most profound thing that you could ever realize. Because it makes you get up off your ass and live your life to the absolute fullest and do the things that you can be truly proud of when you are on your deathbed at 90 years old. Hopefully, God willing, right? You are looking back on your your years and you think, wow, I really went for it. And that is what I hope for you by repeating the mantra, one with death. And the final mantra or affirmation that almost ties everything together into a nice little bow and present is the mantra, one with now. This lovely little mantra takes our first two mantras, one with life and one with death, and it brings it into an actionable state that we can actually do something about these lessons, which is, you guessed it, right freaking now. And I would personally argue, and so many other spiritual leaders have argued this for eons now, that our biggest problem as human beings is that we are unconscious at least 80% of our lives. Our brains are running off without our permission, without our blessing, running at 1,000 miles per hour, and this leads us to be living in a place that is not the now. Because the majority of us, whether we like to admit it or not, are living in the past or are living in the future. And as the Buddha says, this is what causes your suffering each and every single day. Because whether you are the kind of person that is hanging on to a past, that is reliving old moments and old stories and old tales of perhaps I'm a victim, perhaps life did me wrong, perhaps if only I hadn't met that person, life wouldn't have been so shitty right now. These people are literally chained to their stories. They are literally chained to a past. But the problem is, when you realize it, this past is nothing but an illusion. It just doesn't exist anymore. And by trying to deal with the past in the past, you are dealing with phantom with a phantom, a ghost with a ghost. That is literally the best way I can put it. You are dealing with an imaginary friend by getting another imaginary friend to fight each other. Because the truth is, you cannot do anything unless it is in this present moment. Yes, you can sit down and process the past, but you can't do it back then. This is where many people get this wrong. It's the same for the people that are living in the future, right? You have these big goals, I'm sure. You have these aspirations and these things that you want to achieve in your life. And again, that's a beautiful thing, and I'm proud of you for that. But when you are trying to deal with the future by living in the future, you forget the fact that there's this beautiful thing called life going on around you. And all you think about, the only thing that sits in your psyche is, oh my word, when I'm at that place, it's going to be sick. When I've got that goal, when I finally made her fall in love with me, then I'll be happy. When I'm living in that dream house or I'm on that dream vacation 10 years from now, when I'm finally successful and I'm finally rich, shit is going to go down, bro. Like I'm going to have the best time ever. Same delusion. You are living in a place that is not the present moment. And the sad and terrifying truth is that you may get so caught up in living in the past and in the future that you forget to actually live in the only moment that ever exists, which is the now. You literally run through your entire life, never having ever been here. I need to use this mantra on a daily basis to remind myself every time my thoughts and my brain just flies off in one direction or another. I remind myself, hey, come back. It's like a dog on a leash. You got to pull him back. That dog could be going towards the future. Say, right now. What can we be doing right now that'll help us get there? But enjoy it right now. You get to that success. You get to that love and that enjoyment. And it lasts for a week. Maybe a month if you're lucky. And then you got to do another 5 years of work and grind because now the goals got to be bigger. The car's got to be shinier. The house has got to be more grandiose. And then you find that your whole collection of life experience is designated to a few little brief moments of joy and bliss. That's no way to live your life. And I realize now that by living in the moment, not only will I find what I'm looking for, which is acceptance of the now, going back to surrender, these things all tie in together, but I realize that it's now, that life is okay as it is. I can appreciate what is going on right damn now. Going back to one with death, you don't know when you're going to die, so you may as well live now. Going back to one with surrender, you may as well surrender to life and enjoy it right now. You need to be one with life now, because the now is all you're going to ever get. It's a profound yet simple truth, and by combining these three mantras, I hope that you won't forget these very powerful lessons on a daily basis so that you can really live life to the absolute fullest and give it your all while you still have a chance. If you want to learn more about this beautiful game we call life, check out this next video right now. And if all else fails, my friend, ask yourself, if life was a game, how would I play?